Hey everyone, and welcome to Tony for The Enchanted Forest. Tony for you. Fairies and pixies are things that almost feel self-explanatory, but why is that? Everyone instinctively knows that fairies and pixies are small elf-like creatures that like to get up to mischief, but the lore of these mythological creatures goes much further than that. With history spanning from the entirety of Europe and lore ranging from peace-loving dancers to undead killers, if there's anything I know about European folklore, it's that it gets pretty crazy. The entire race of fairies is a topic that spans hundreds of years and encompasses many different creatures, so without any further ado, let's talk about the fairies of Shin Megami Tensei. To establish a baseline, I'll explain what a fairy is. Fairies are not one particular creature, more so a word used to describe physical beings with supernatural traits. Things like wings, the ability to shapeshift, and other strange magical powers set this race apart from normal humans. Obvious examples of these creatures would be elves and pixies, but also less benevolent creatures like goblins and trolls. Commonly, these beings are separated into two categories, the Silky and unseelie. The Silky group are kind to humans and seek to help them out where their goals intersect. Pixies that sing and dance with humans in the forest and lead lost children from danger are one such example. Unseelie fairies actively seek to harm humans and are, let's just say, less attractive. Banshees are a type of fairy that can assume the form of a woman, usually a disheveled older hag or sometimes a disembodied voice whose scream foretells the death of a loved one. The people targeted with her wails varied from story to story, but some are so morbid as to disguise themselves as the recently passed family members to torment those still living and foretell the rest of the family's downfall. The members of each fairy court are relatively easy to tell apart, as neither are known to hide their nature from the outset of meeting a human, but they can also be differentiated by their locations and times of activity. Silky fairies prefer spring and summer as they can flourish in the sunlight and warmth, while unseelie fairies prefer winter and autumn as they prefer darkness, see fewer humans, and if they do, it's far easier to attack. Also, disturbingly, unseelie fairies are unable to reproduce, so to bolster their numbers, human children are commonly kidnapped and transformed into these evil beings. Even among these courts, each fairy is unique. Fairies usually dwell in specific areas known to harbor considerable magical energy, such as verdant forests and rocky mountains. These fairies are often solitary, but some can have a social structure not unlike humans, with their own societies, culture, and laws. Most interestingly, there are specific races of fairies that live in service of humans. Most well known of them are Brownies from Scottish folklore. They're a type of fairy or elf that live in one's home. These creatures come out at night to perform various household chores and basic farm work. In exchange, they ask only for small treats, either porridge, cake, and most commonly, bowls of cream. Silkies are also believed to be female versions of brownies, but they are much more willing to be seen and interact with humans, known to be kind, but still pranksters. To many homeowners of the time, this was a great deal, free housekeeping in exchange for leftover desserts, but there are tales of them being disrespected, in which case they become quite nasty. If the brownie feels taken advantage of or slighted in any way, either by criticizing his work or even watching them perform a task, they will be set off. Best case scenario, they flip a few tables and disappear forever. Not exactly pleasant, but easily fixed. If you really manage to get these fairies upset though, sometimes they can transform into your worst nightmare, making it their life's mission to ruin the prosperity of your household. Transforming into boggarts, sometimes called bugbears, bugaboos, or boogeymen, they destroy harvests, cripple animals, and most disturbingly are sometimes known to kidnap children. A more independent fairy is a pixie. These beings, common in British folklore, are known to live underground and, when encountered, displayed a childlike disposition as well as appearance. Despite their propensity to play pranks on local humans, they are a welcome sight to travelers as they commonly sing, dance, and raise the spirits of those around them. To those who mean them no harm, a pixie can hold pretty intense magical power. Rarely ever seen alone, pixies, if befriended, are even known to grant wishes to those deemed worthy. Then again, those deemed worthy by the childlike pixies are usually children who wish for simple pleasures and the health of those they love. Pixies are depicted as wearing very little clothing or, in some cases, completely naked. Due to this, a very easy way to befriend a pixie is to bring them scraps of cloth and linen to wrap themselves in and mimic humans. They're also said to be very fond of horses for some reason. Pretty cute. The boons they give are not just restricted to those who interact with them directly, however, as they're also depicted on occasion to shrink down to effective invisibility and observe humans. If you catch the eye of the local pixies and they see kindness and virtue in your heart, they can bless you beyond measure. Nothing brings joy to a pixie more than a happy family filled with love and respect for nature. By the same vein, however, to gain the ire of the pixies can be a devastating thing. They may be childlike, but they also have a very real sense of justice. If deemed unworthy, a group of pixies can decimate a household, wreak havoc on the fields, cause you to lose your way on the roads, and in some cases are even known to kidnap children. You may have already noticed, many of these stories end with the kidnapping of children, and therein lies the truth of fairies. I said before that they could be comfortably placed in two categories, seelie and unseelie, good and evil. But that isn't necessarily true. Much like humans, they're not so easily understood. Nothing is black and white. Seelie fairies can bring ruin to people who make simple mistakes, and unseelie fairies can bring justice and relief to those who suffer. And to the people of the time, they demanded respect and caution. These classifications of good and bad pixies were generally true, but each being is unique depending on region and circumstance. With all that being said though, what did they use these children for? For the unseelie, it can be extrapolated that they are transformed into dark fairies through some kind of magical ritual, or perhaps more commonly, the child would just be gobbled up by these boogeymen. For the seelie court to kidnap a child though, it could be for many reasons. Sometimes, children were stolen to become servants to the fairies to live out the rest of their days in captivity. If the child was exceptionally unlucky, they were abducted simply as retribution to slight their family, and in most cases, left to waste away in the forest, cursed to wander lost until their life came to an end. Sometimes, however, and most disturbingly, a child is stolen simply because the fairy loves them. Stolen away to be raised among their new fairy kin, never to know of their true origin. In those cases, to prevent the family from looking for their child, a being known as a changeling is left in their stead. This creature, created by some shape-shifting magic, would mimic the abducted child in appearance, but would always be visibly slightly different. Disfigurements, facial hair, and long teeth were common indicators of a changeling's presence, and they will not age in the same way as a normal human child. As a changeling does come of age, they often display intelligence far beyond what is expected of their years, and possess a strange insight in future activities. When alone, they may engage in odd behavior, such as jumping about, singing, dancing, and talking to themselves, much like seelie fairies are known for. The sad truth of changelings is that they were most likely the contemporary people's way of understanding and othering those with physical abnormalities or mental illness, as the other word for changeling was oaf. There are some cases where the changeling does not forget about their fairy roots, and regardless of if their family life was pleasant, they return home to the forest without warning, seemingly vanishing without a trace. Some accounts in Scandinavia said that trolls believed humans had superior child-rearing skills to their own, and would also kidnap children to be replaced by the troll baby. This would result in the child growing up exceptionally large, strong, and brutish. It wasn't just children though, as there were some occurrences when an adult would be abducted by fairies. In this case, a changeling could not be left behind. For these circumstances, a log is left behind enchanted to look like a human. This log quickly progresses through a wasting sickness and dies shortly after the family finds it, only for the real family member to be living amongst the fairies. The main members of the fairies which performed these abductions were known as Spriggans. These creatures harbor a nasty disposition and are known to get back at any who slight them. Spriggans are far more powerful than your average fairy, however, as they have the ability to control the weather and, despite being relatively small in stature, possessed enormous strength. They often guarded treasure and loved nothing more than thieving from anyone and taking anything, including people. All fairies are said to be drawn to specific human qualities, such as blonde hair and blue eyes. The more of these qualities you had, the likelihood of you being targeted by fairies increased exponentially. With a rocky exterior and the look of an old man with the head of a child, they made their homes in dilapidated stone structures and blended in as statues. Oftentimes, whatever they stole, if it was something or someone you loved, you'll most likely never see it again. In Shin Megami Tensei, fairies are portrayed incredibly well overall. Pixie is a fan-favorite demon, and her design is very accurate. Depicted as a childlike and playful being, but with the odd sadistic side slipping every once in a while. Her lack of clothing is even very accurate, as pixies were described on many occasions as being mostly naked. though I'm sure it also helped with marketing as well. Banshees don't appear very often, but when they do, they're a gray-skinned, green-haired woman evoking an undead vibe, and described as a weeping ghost appearing when something sad is about to happen. Brownies also make an appearance, and once again, they look quite spot on. Knockers also share the same backstory as well, and while they look different, also are quite accurate to the source material, being covered in rags. Trolls are big hairy monsters, and that is certainly what they look like. Not much to say. Changelings sadly don't make an appearance in SMT, but Spriggans do, looking scarily accurate with their tough stone-like skin, tucked-in body so as to hide away, and old decrepit face. This is overall a fantastically well-represented race. That covers my fairy race breakdown and overview. Let me know your favorite member of the fairy race in the comments down below, and while you're down there, leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. What can I say? Pixie is my favorite. She's just so cute, and there's tons of designs to choose from. Special thanks to Andre Vinicius de Silva Valens, Anton, Big T, Frankie Stoned, Goose Kebab, Jim Taylor, Just a Middleman, Konyuna, Matt M, Mr. 8 Eyes, The Digital Dutchman, The Toaster Messiah, Video Gamer 75, and many more for supporting the channel on Patreon. If you'd like to support, check the link in the description below. Thanks for watching this fairy lore video, and I'll see you in the next Tony for You. Have a good one.